And also make sure. So we've had great callers the last couple of weeks, but the Conquest Call-In show is going to be Friday, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. We may, there's no reason you should be subscribed because we may go live. Who knows? If we start, like the flipping pancakes, if we start flipping recruits on Wednesday, we might just have to go live and do a little bit of celebrating. If we lose a couple recruits without again, we might have to commiserate together. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Again, just hit the subscribe right down in the lower hand corner if you are not subscribed already.
Where does this recruiting class, let's see, stack up right now?
Well, I mean, if we're doing the fictitious star thing, I think we're 17th. And that's in high school recruiting.
Okay, I'm looking at number 8 on the 247 Sports rankings.
Is that the overall with, I don't know, is that last year's? Are you sure you're the right year?
Oh, that's last year's.
That'd be 23. They were 8 last year.
2024, okay. Yes, we're sitting at number 17.
Yeah, now that's just for the high school recruiting, and recruiting's changed now, and that portal class is a lot more exciting. Well, actually, no, I take it back. Again, don't get me started. I got every recruiting service on 3 people, and the 247 people get on me because I was pretty critical of stars. Look, stars do matter as a whole, you guys, but we all know just because you're a 4-star, you're not better. It doesn't mean you're better than a 3-star. Just because you're a left guard and not a tackle doesn't mean you're not more important to your team. So a lot of the stars, remember, it's subjective, you guys, and the people that do it, they do a great job. I mean, I've been watching the 247 guys for years and years and years, but it is not a science. I can see, Mark, you have a lot of skepticism there. It's easy to pick the top 50 players in the country. I mean, I bet you we could do it. We could tell you the top 50 high school kids are in the country. You're going to get that right most of the time. So 5 stars, pretty solid. People forget something. Oh, he was a bust. Well, there's injuries involved. There's, maybe you got a Corey Foreman where the coaching staff is jerking him around all over the field, dropping his weight, moving him around, so is he a bust or was he not utilized? There's those things. I just worry about people winning, like kind of like in the underwear Olympics, like, they're great in these passing leagues. They look great when they're doing these camps, and then they get onto the field, and they might look like Tarzan, but they play like Jane. I mean, it happens every year. The measurables are all great, but they don't have that dog in them. They don't have that fight in them. So they get in and they just peter out. So yes, top 100, top 50, pretty tight. But when you start getting towards 150, 250, really, I don't know. It seems to me it's very, very subjective.
Okay, well, if you're talking about, there are roughly 70 Power 5 programs, and we're talking about 25 commits per team, we're talking about 1,800 players, something in that range. So, of course, there are all sorts of misses all over the place in both directions, of course. But the volume of these rankings are extremely accurate, and they're most accurate near the top. Now, once you drop to 20, 25, 30, the development of the Wisconsin programs under Barry Alvarez in the past, or Mark Antonio at Michigan State, shoot, yes, they can make up 15 spots in the recruiting rankings, because once you drop to 20, 25 into the 30s and 40s, there's minuscule difference between those rankings. But basically, if you go to the top 5 or 6 programs in terms of total team composite talent over the last 10 years, you're looking at everybody who's been any kind of force in the college football playoff.
Yeah. Well, okay. But, there's the Bama bump. There's all kinds of things. If you told me who the top 50 were at the beginning, it just seems a change. To me, it just seems like those numbers guys are depending on what team they go to. So you go, well, yeah, but look at these players. They have the most 5 stars and they win the national championship. Yeah, I know, because you start moving the rankings up for the teams that are the ones we know, like the Alabamas, the Georgias, Ohio States. They're for some reason, mystically, the numbers start going up towards the end of the cycle, and the other ones start dropping down.
That's almost justifying what I'm saying about how good those programs are. If there is a Bama bump, Bama has been the dominant program in college football during the college football playoff era.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I'm saying is I agree. At the very end, whoever Alabama wants, they're gonna get their pick of the best players in the country, and they've done their evaluations. Whoever Ohio State picks, they're going to get who they want. They have the evaluations of all the players in the country. I'm saying when you get that player 225, and then you have a guy that we say, oh well, he's the offensive lineman, he's a left guard, he's like 500th in the country, and then you start balancing this team's 14, this one's 16, this one's better than this team's recruiting. Sure. I mean, that's when it gets silly. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Overall, these evaluations that are done by these services, if they don't just throw names and throw a dartboard, there's a lot that goes involved. It is very good, but it's not a science. That's all I'm trying to remind people of.
Absolutely not. Yes. Yeah, nobody should be running around bragging to their rival because they've got the 17th recruiting class and their rivals at number 20.
Mark, you did a good job of this. The difference between the top 3, when you go to 3 to 4 or 3 to 7, it's not just a couple. It's a massive leap in those classes. So, I mean, that's another thing. Well, I was 6 and you were 7. That could be a huge difference on. And also, I remember some of those Clay Helton years where we were like getting a 6th ranked class, and we had a bunch of safeties and a bunch of running backs and a bunch of wide receivers, but nobody in the trenches. But hey, we had the number 6 team in recruiting class in the country. We didn't address any of our needs, but we got a bunch of 5 stars. That doesn't mean anything either.
And the balance that you just talked about is huge, because for as good as Ohio State's been, and they have been just right on or a tick below Georgia and Alabama, it's been a little too offense heavy, and they've missed out and haven't been elite in some positional groups. And also, to your point, the transfer portal, Tim, that was your original point. The transfer portal has made these high school recruiting rankings less significant than they've ever been. They're still significant. It still matters because you're bringing in 25 players, and hopefully half of them are going to be on your roster in 2 to 3 years. I guess we'll find out. We'll have a lot of good metrics and probably statistical compilations of what can be expected down the road for these classes in the transfer portal era. Yeah, if you hang on to, I don't know what it's going to be, but 75% of that class, that's probably going to be a good showing 2 to 3 years down the line. But these recruiting rankings used to make up the complete total team composite talent ranking, but now it doesn't, because the transfer portal is so decisive.
And also, we're seeing it with A&M. We're seeing it with Georgia. We're seeing a lot of places. Sure, you sign the best recruiting class according to stars, but where are those guys when they're supposed to be juniors? Are they still even in your program anymore? So, I mean, the high school rankings really are, like Matt said earlier, though, when you're talking about defensive line, when you're talking offensive line, where you have to bring guys in, quality guys, develop them, have them play as a unit together, that is. USC just saw it. The guys like Tarquin that came in were highly coveted by a number of teams, right? But they just didn't have that time. They didn't have those reps together. They weren't out there playing together on the field, getting the experience of playing as a unit. That's where you need. I think tight end Delay said it. Really, you can go to the portal for quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs. We showed that with Jordan Addison. Brought him in. What a huge difference having a playmaker like Addison was compared in 2023 compared to 2022 to 2023. So that you can feed up in. When it comes to offensive line, when it comes to defensive interior guys, you need to bring those guys in, you develop them, and you need to get them in the weight room, and that's the key.
And one more point to play off of that. While it's going to continue to be a skill and a commodity to keep these classes together to a large degree, let's understand, for as much as these rankings have been deteriorated by everything we're talking about, it's much easier and more feasible to grab a top 5 high school class and supplement it with great transfer portal additions than to rank in the 50s in recruiting and try to build an entire football team with stars from all over the country, because they're not running to the 50th ranked talent team in the country from a high school standpoint.